beautiful day in this neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. A neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So, since we're together, we might as well say, let's make the most of this beautiful day. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you be? Please won't you be? Please won't you be my neighbor? Hello, friends. Boy, it's just been too long since we had a visit. I'm so glad that you could make it today. I've been awfully glum lately, and I've been thinking, what could I possibly do to pass these blues? And I thought, perhaps a trip to the land of make-believe was in order. Won't you come with me? Let's use our imaginations. Well, friends, we're going to draw some with vine charcoal. And we're going to work with light and shadow a lot. You're going to want to prep a board, just paper with tape around the outside. We've done this before. Then you're going to want some vine charcoal. You're going to take the flat side of the vine charcoal, like when you used to rub leaves with crayons as a child. And you don't want a lot of pressure, but you're just going to want to cover the entire paper. Kind of makes a yucky sound. Gives me a little bit of goosebumps even. Something like this. Then you'll want to take just a paper towel or an old sock, something along those lines. And you're going to take your board and in a circular motion, it's going to smooth out those marks there. Pretty smooth. If it's still kind of a light gray, then I might want to repeat that process one more time and put a little bit more charcoal down on it. We don't want it to be super dark gray, but we don't want it to be really light gray either. We want it to be kind of halfway in between really light and really dark. Yeah, that's real nice. That's real nice. This is a little bit messy, so maybe don't wear your nicest clothes for this. Okie dokie. Well, here's one I did before, and we'll do a little bit of a live demonstration again. But when you do this, you're going to want to choose something to draw in real life, and you're going to want to set it up somewhere. A lot of artists like to draw fruit. I think it's because fruit doesn't walk away when you're drawing it. Also, it kind of holds shapes really nice. A lot of fruits are rounded, and it's good for showing form or three-dimensional depth. So you can do a bowl of fruit, very traditional. Doesn't have to be that though, but it should be something from life, meaning some object sitting out there that you can see. And you're going to want to set up a light source for it. It could be a lamp. I have a lamp set up here, right behind me. It could be natural light too, but if it's natural light, keep in mind that as time passes, the light will change and the shadows will change. So keep that in mind. But you'll want to light it up so that you have light and shadow both showing on your object really clearly. Because if you don't have distinct highlights and shadows, this project will be a lot more difficult. Because all we're doing really is getting the basic shapes, which we've already practiced before. You're really good at it. I remember, you especially. Well, once you have the basic shapes in place, you're going to look for light and shadow. And normally we just color in. But with this particular project, we're actually going to take out a lot, which is why we have the paper halfway between light and dark. We have our midtones already, and we're going to squint at our object to find the highlighted areas, and we're going to erase those parts. And then we're going to squint at our object to find the shadowy areas, and then we're going to mark those as well with our vine charcoal. So I'm going to move this one over. Actually, you can take a look at it real quick. I did several studies on this page. We're going to have you do one on big paper too, but for the first one, let's just start with a regular sized piece of paper for practice. Here's another practice one. I can tell you're a little nervous. You shouldn't be too nervous. Just set up your paper, and then I'll help you through the next stage. Okay, when you work, you're going to want an eraser. It could be a regular pencil eraser. If you have a kneaded eraser or you picked one up from class, that's going to be a real big help to you. Okay, show you how to use those. And some vine charcoal. Okay. First thing you got to do is look at your paper and decide what's going to be in your composition. What are you going to include? I'm not going to draw the whole skeleton today. I'm only going to do part of it, and I'm trying to decide what part I want to do. I'm looking for light and shadow. I think I could do the skull. I've done lots of skulls. I also kind of like how that spine looks, though. Maybe I'll do a little bit of both. Maybe I'll do a spine down here and a skull up here. All right, so I'm going to look for basic shapes. I'm going to use all the tricks that I learned before about proportions. I'm going to double check those. I'm going to look for basic shapes. Right now I'm just drawing kind of squiggly, if you can't see that. It's not really detailed. I just kind of want to get the basic idea as to where things are kind of going to go. My cheekbones. My teeth are kind of going to go right here. chin was just a little bit off. Okay, that's not so bad. Kind of a neat thing about using Vine charcoal is it erases so easy. Watch this. That mark I don't like, I just used my finger and now it's basically gone and I can redraw it how I need it. Alrighty. Okay, now that I have the basic shape in place, what I'm going to do is squint and I'm going to look for some shadows. And I'm just going to squiggle in some of my shadows. Okay. So I squint and I see that underneath these cheekbones it's kind of shadowy. Certainly inside the nose is pretty shadowy here. There's a little bit of a highlight in the middle. The eye sockets certainly are shadowy. But I'm paying attention to where in the eye sockets it's shadowy. It's not the whole thing. Okay. Not too worried about those teeth yet. I do see a bit of a shadow here. And this side of the head is a little bit shadowy. I'm going to notice something else really interesting right here. Back behind my object is very shadowy compared to my object. So I'm actually going to color in that whole part darker than I have it already. If it's kind of rough and I don't like that, I can just use my paper towel, smooth it out a little bit, fade it out a little bit. Okay. Well, so far I've only worked on the shadows, but now I want to use this. And you can use a regular eraser too, but the reason I like the kneaded erasers is you just peel them apart and you can form it to the shape that you need. So I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to squint and look at my skeleton there. And I'm going to find my highlights, just the lightest areas first. And I can simply kind of press down and pull up, kind of a tacky feel. And you can see that showing up. I can also slide it for a little bit softer. The tendency is to go, well, this is bone, everything should be white. But that's not the case. We're just looking for the highest highlights. Most of the skeleton's midtones. So we're finding the highlights and the shadows. And that's really going to give it a sense of form, a sense of being three-dimensional. Notice that on the cheekbone right here, it's pulling some. I didn't expect this, but right underneath that nose is very, very bright. Now if I need a really, really sharp spot, I might use just the edge of my regular eraser. I can use it almost like a pencil, but it's just making the parts lighter. Now this whole section is a little bit lighter, because that's where my light source is coming in from. Like I said, the great thing with the vine charcoal is if you feel like you messed up, just wipe it out with a finger or a paper towel and redo it. It's very, very easy to undo your mistakes. Alrighty. I'm looking up at my object as often as I can, because I don't really know what the skeleton looks like. I might think I do, but my eyes are going to be a better judge than my brain. Now I'm going to start going in between, back and forth. I'm going to use some charcoal, I'm going to use some eraser. I'm going to get a little more detail in my mouth now. By the way, I'm working very tiny. You should work big. Work much bigger, it's much easier, because the vine charcoal is not very sharp, so it's hard to get details with. But if you work larger, you won't have to worry so much about all those details. I like to listen to music when I work typically. If you get in the moment and get concentrated, hours can pass by without you even realizing it. One way to make things look brighter is to make the thing behind it darker. If you make the thing behind it darker, that automatically makes the lights pop more. Shadow on this side. Also, think back to when I had you watch that apple video. Well, there. I think you get the idea. I'm going to do another one for those that want to keep watching. If you're just itching to get trying it, that's okay too. Do my blocking stages first. Oh, I don't love that placement. I don't like that. Oh, look how easy that was. Didn't like my placement, so I redid it. Notice how loose my drawing is at first. I'm not really worried if the details are all perfect. I'm just trying to get a basic idea as to where those shapes go. Okay. Now that I know kind of where I want things to go, I'm going to go ahead and start looking for my shadows. Smooth it out. Ooh, there's an empty space right here. Empty space right here. those highlights. Mmm, that's delicious. Mm-hmm. I don't want to overdo my highlights. Trick is just looking for the highlights and the shadows. And remember that it can all be undone. Smear it down with a paper towel. You can do the whole thing over again. It's very, very easy to undo your mistakes with vine charcoal. Well, there you go. That's probably sufficient for now. remember to look for the highlights and the shadows. And remember that with the vine charcoal, if something doesn't look right, you can just wipe it right on out. Okay. Give it a shot on a regular sized piece of paper first. Choose an object that'll hold still for you. Fruit, a toy. It should be something three-dimensional though. We want it to have form. You don't want it to be a flat object. I don't want you to work from a picture. I want you to use something in real life sitting in front of you with some light on it and some shadow on it. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Till next time, neighbor.